There we go. So there's really only like two kinds of ideas out there. The first kind, they just kind of come out of nowhere. And I feel like that's how most people expect ideas to come, just kind of fall out of the sky. I have no idea how those happen, but there's like a second type that nobody talks about. And there are these ideas you have to chip at over and over and over again. It's slow, it's methodical, it's painful, but I think it's worth it. The cool thing about this second type is I can show you exactly where the spark of that idea comes from. Screw it. It's almost like I need a prescription for my inner vision. For some reason, most of the ideas I get, I can see everything blocked out, but it's kind of fuzzy, and sometimes there's colors, sometimes it's just black and white. But these ideas I get are almost never 100% clear. So I've got this kind of like sci-fi southwestern jewelry theme that's gonna run through probably 3 to 5 paintings. There's a few symbols in the Southwest that are pretty much like a given. A saguaro cactus is kind of like the stereotypical icon for the Southwest. That was a really easy starting point. One of the other symbols that's like, I consider pretty synonymous with Southwest is lightning bolts. I don't think it took me long to decide to make like a necklace or a pendant out of the lightning bolt symbol. I want to pause real quick and tell you kind of what my goal is with these paintings. What I want when people see them is for them to just jump off the wall. One of the tricks that artists use to really grab your attention is to have a really strong focal point or a point of emphasis on their piece. I made a little graph that makes it easy to understand this. It's either through contrast with light and shadow or picking opposite colors on the color wheel. And that's where we're going with this. When you put the colors into a color wheel, they're what lie directly opposite of the other one. So while I was sketching out my painting, I decided that I wanted the lightning bolt to be yellow. That just intuitively felt right. Which then meant it would make the highlights and the lightning bolt really jump if I was to play with more blues, pinks, and especially purples. The minute I realized I was going to use purples, pinks, and blues, I just fell back into a memory from like 15 years ago. For some reason, my dad was absolutely focused in exposing me to as much music as possible. Found him. One of his favorite artists is Seal, and it's one of the first CDs he ever gave me when I was a kid. I love Nirvana, but he was basically doing the reverse of what Nirvana was doing at the same time. If the music from the 80s had kept going in the trajectory it was, that's what Seal was making in the 90s. Now, I know what you're thinking. Brant, you don't really look like Seal's normal demographic or fan base. But if you look close, there I am. I remember laying in bed at 13 thinking, oh, I'm totally gonna sing these songs to my future girlfriend. I had absolutely zero game. I was nowhere near getting to do anything like that. That never happened. Memory that I fell back into was one from like 2003, 2004. And my dad and I were standing in one of the last record stores right as like digital music was taking off. For us, we had started moving into buying DVDs of concerts. We did not have the money to go spend to go see our favorite artists. So we would buy DVDs, and my dad held up this Seal live in Paris. And I was like, oh, I cannot wait to see if he can actually sing that good live. So we go home. I remember him popping it in and being on this square TV. It wasn't even that big. It was like 30 inches, not high def, nothing. Oh my gosh, I have seen Coldplay, I'd seen Pink Floyd at this point, I'd seen Foo Fighters, all on DVD with cool stage lighting, theater lighting, all the above. Like, look how natural this is. Look how good every one of these colors look. They look like they belong on him. They don't look supernatural. I'm sorry, if a white guy gets under a super purple or a super blue light, at best it looks cyberpunk, which is cool in a different way, but it doesn't look natural. Has never looked cooler on anyone that I've ever seen. But that has stuck with me forever. After this point, knowing that I want to do kind of like a purple and blue and pink, I know exactly the kind of ethnicity I wanted to put into this portrait. After this, it was just kind of like a bunch of ideas stacked on top of each other pretty rapidly. Knowing I was going to have this skin tone and this ethnicity, I knew I could do like really beautiful curly hair. And then I even thought, man, that plays into the lightning bolt theme of dark and stormy clouds, which would also, with all these curls, it makes it perfect to put all of these like highlights across. And if we play with the blues and purples on a jacket, it almost feels like rain. Now, at this point, you're like, okay, Brad's getting to it. You're reading into this too hard. Maybe. But it also, to me, as an artist, feels like I'm pumping it full of more meaning, more symbolism. I love all that stuff. It made me excited to really be willing to put in the hours to get this piece right. And that is why I love this second type of idea, where you don't get it for free. The first idea where they just hit you out of nowhere, that's cool, whatever. They're nice. Every once in a while you get one of those, you're like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna do that. That made things easy. But sometimes having to go down the rabbit hole, and this took me about like a week and a half to like arrive at just the idea that I wanted for this. I am so glad because it makes me appreciate it through the work of having to like slowly pull it into focus, if you will. Here's what I'm telling you. Just because an idea doesn't come fully formed or perfect at the beginning doesn't mean it's not a good idea. It just means you haven't done all the work to deserve this idea, if that makes sense. I think it's time that I show you what this thing actually looks like. This girl paid for front row tickets and she was vibing the entire time. This is just one of like a bunch of clips of her basically being entranced.